All right. This edition of Notepad Sports Talk, we are going to talk MLB trade deadline for the Tigers, what it means, what they could do, and is Skubal going to be traded? Let's talk about it.
Turn that off. It's time for Notepad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome. Another edition of Notepad Sports Talk. It's going to be all about the trade deadline coming up. It's currently the 28th of July. Trade deadline ends at 6 p.m. on the 30th. So we've got a couple days left. And as we were actually getting ready for this show, we just had Carson Kelly get traded. So we'll talk about that and other possibilities coming on up soon.
So, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. My brother's been out on the road. It's been kind of if anyone's ever seen any, I can't say he's necessarily got caught up in all those travel problems, but my brother has to fly to get where he has to go to get to work. So I'm sure it's been an interesting couple of weeks for him. And, getting an opportunity now, spend some time with the kids this weekend. So I'm sure that was really good.
Well, not exactly, because I haven't got a chance to talk to you, but I didn't get home until today. It took me 3 days to get home. So even though I wasn't caught up in the mess going out to where I had to go, I got caught up in the mess trying to get home. So it took me 3 days to get home. So
and you're flying out again, I assume, tomorrow?
Yeah, flying out again tomorrow.
Oh, jeez.
I had enough time to basically come home, do laundry, say hi to the kids, and that's it. Like I'm going back out tomorrow. It's been a little rough. So.
Wow. I did not realize that. Like the last couple of weeks, JD and I usually talk, fairly consistently, even when he's on the road, right? Like we'll send stuff back and forth. And I know over the last couple of weeks, I know I've sent more stuff out to him, and he's not had the opportunity because he's been so busy. So
yeah.
It's been a little weird because, like I said, not being able, we talk, like I said, we talk all the time. So, but he did warn me, and it's not like, I felt like he was, ducking my messages because I know he wasn't.
Right. It was a rough time, but what can you do? It's part of the job,
Yep.
But
and I've been camping. I just got back from Pontiac Lake State Park. Took my 450 Bushmaster out. They got a shooting range out there, so I was able to get it sighted in. Still a little new to the whole shooting thing, but got my rifle sighted in at 25 yards, and I just shredded the bullseye, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So got it out to 100 yards, and I was using a laser sight, and then I screwed it all up. So I'm going to have to go back and start all over, but that's okay. Shooting my rifle is fun, and getting ready for hunting season, I'm super excited about.
It is fun. You're right about that.
So,
yeah. But yeah, so the MLB trade deadline. Excuse me.
So we've had some, in Detroit, the big name obviously is Skubal, right?
Right. Yep.
And will they or will they not trade him? Right? Because I know you've said this, and I can't remember if you've said it on air. Like, the Tigers don't necessarily have to trade him this year.
Nope.
Right? Because, he could come back as long as he stays healthy. He's in line. He could win a Cy Young. Like, his stock could only get better, right, if we keep him. And he's still under team control, even if we keep him to the trade deadline next year, right?
Right.
So, but on the other side of that, there's been a lot of talk about, the Orioles and Dodgers, I think, are the two biggest names.
It is. But before we move on to there, though, let's just
Okay.
Let's throw something out there real quick though. As
Sure.
far as
Yeah.
Skubal goes, right? Like, look, there is definitely risk in keeping him, and I say that for two reasons basically. One is injury. He already had Tommy John surgery one time, and that was back, I believe, even in high school, I think is when he had it. So, like if he has to have Tommy John surgery again, he's out for a year plus. So,
Right.
and that's definitely going to hurt his draft stock. And then if he does have Tommy John surgery again, now you're looking at basically knocking on the door when he's done with team control. So, like and then if you do decide to pay him, let's just look back at all the pitchers that's gotten injured as far as needing Tommy John surgery. Like some big names. Anything from like Verlander, Scherzer, Jacob DeGrom. And even Ohtani, right? Like you have all these guys. So when you're talking about paying $30 million a year to some of these pitchers, like there's no guarantee these pitchers are even going to be able to play a full season. And if they do get Tommy John, number 2, number 3, whatever it's going to be, like, and they're going to be out for like a year and a half, like that's, money just down the drain basically. So look, I want nothing but the best for Skubal, even if he was on a different team. The guy's been, great for us, but I'm just saying, like, keeping Skubal does not come without risk. And secondly, this, the new owner here has not shown any proclivity to paying players. And I think he brought in this regime specifically from Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay doesn't pay players. I think that's his whole plan, is to copy the Tampa Bay Rays formula where and we just seen it, right? Tampa Bay right now is selling off their players. Randy Rosarina's gone. Isaac Paredes is gone. And both those guys are set to be free agents, starting to get paid, and they're like, well, you know what, sorry, goodbye, right? Like, we don't want to pay you,
right?
And so do we really feel that this owner is going to pay to keep, well, one, to bring in free agents, and two, to pay our current top players? And I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So if you keep Skubal now, I'm not saying it's a bad idea to keep him, but I'm just saying if you do keep him, you run risk of selling while his stock is at the highest. One Tommy John, injury, the surgery, right? Like it all goes away.
Yeah, it does.
So, but at any rate, we're looking at Carson Kelly now. He just got traded, for those of you that haven't heard yet. It happened about 45 minutes ago. But he got traded to the Texas Rangers. We kind of expected that. So what did we get for him? We got a right-hander, Tyler Owens, and a catcher, Liam Hicks. Those are the two people we got from him. And obviously, Dylan Dingler is probably going to go get promoted from AAA up to the MLB team in order to take Carson Kelly's spot. So that's what that's the newest thing. That's the first thing that's the first big trade the Tigers actually made during this trade deadline. Look, what do we actually get from him, right? Hicks is 25 years old, right? He's batting .260 with 4 home runs, and that's in AA. Owens, he's a 23-year-old. He's got 2.8 ERA, 35 strikeouts across 35 innings, with 26 relief appearances in AA as well. So, none of these guys are like real young prospects, but Owens seems to have like pretty good control because he only has 9 walks with the 35 strikeouts. And then, Hicks is just going to be like a, your journeyman type of catcher. That's what we got.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, my middle daughter came in. Sounds like she's going to be going to a Tigers game on Friday. She works at the Detroit Zoo. She's an instructor there for the elementary kids for their camps.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Hey, do you have a Tiger shirt?" So guess what Tiger shirt she'll be wearing?
Which one's that?
Well, It's the one I got from you.
Oh, okay.
So
That's an old one.
Good old Pudge.
Yeah, good old Pudge jersey.
Yeah. So yeah. That jersey is actually a really thick jersey. It's really more of an April jersey than it is a July jersey, but jersey's jersey.
Yeah.
So but anyway, I apologize, God rest. I need to get a little light out there that says recording in progress. Like a real studio. But
yeah, the question is, would they even care if the light was on anyways? So
would I even remember to turn it on? Unless it like flips on with a switch when I turn on my computer. All right. So anyway, Carson Kelly just got traded. I know it's what we're talking about, and the players that we got in return. So, another key piece, Jack Flaherty.
Yeah.
Is it Canna? Right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Mark Canna. Is another name I know that's been put out there.
Mark Canna, Gio Urshela. He could be gone too.
Yep.
But look, that's the being real about the whole thing. Canna and Urshela probably won't bring much back, which is to be expected. But I'm willing to see take whatever they give me, for those two guys, right. And then but of course the two main prizes is going to be with Flaherty and Skubal potentially.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird because when you look at like our local news, the Tarik Skubal trade or possible trade is seems like it's always someone saying something, right? But I feel like when I go to the MLB website, I don't seem to find the articles from MLB. It's more of a local news outlet, which always seems to worry me if I'm not seeing it on the MLB's website, like who's really talking about it, right? Is it just generated, from Detroit? Like, hey, and it's not like he's not having a good year. We all know he is. He was the All-Star this year. He's on pace, could win the Cy Young. The guy is having a great. He's an ace. He is our ace.
Yeah. Every
time he's going out, he's 6-7 innings. He's 7, 8, 9 strikeouts. I think he's got what, like a 2.22 something ERA. So I mean, it's like in the low twos, right? And he's having, like I said, he's having a phenomenal year. And my biggest thing was basically what you said at the beginning is if we don't trade him and we try to hold on to him, like just the injury thing. Like Tommy John is such a occurrence. I shouldn't say reoccurrence, but it's such an occurrence in baseball now. Right? Like I'm sure we could look up the number, like the percentage of starting pitchers or any pitchers that have had Tommy John, in the last 5 years, like what has happened, right?
It's going up. Is what it is.
And it's the way the pitcher throws the ball, right? They're trying to get more out of it. It's putting more stress on the elbow, which is putting more stress on that tendon. It's bound to happen, right?
Yeah.
Trying to throw harder. I don't know how you throw harder without putting more stress on something, right? So to me, this seems like while there might be many Tiger fans like, there's no way you can trade this guy. Like, you've got to keep him, right? And then you try to build around him. But the question then becomes, how do we build around him, right?
So I think what you said, I want to build on that. Okay? Because
yeah. Well, I was trying to bring it up, but I kind of got long-winded. I apologize.
Skubal is 27 years old. like he's not some 23, 24-year-old young guy that's just now breaking in. Like he's 27, and not 27 is old for a pitcher because pitchers can't go into the 40s. If you look at Verlander, Scherzer, etc., Kershaw, but I'm just saying like I think there's some perception out there by some fans that he's this young 22, 23-year-old player, and he's not. So let's just get that cleared up. The second thing is, when you said build around him, and you said with what, that's exactly where I'm coming from, because I am on the trade Skubal bandwagon as long as we get what I think we should get, right? Like I don't want to trade him for a bag of baseballs. Like this guy's a Cy Young Award winner, well, potentially, and I think he will be. And he's probably the best left-hander in baseball right now, if not top 2, top 3. But at any rate, the guy is dominant. So it's not like I just want to give this guy away. But what happens is when you trade away one piece and you can get like 4 pieces in return, that's who you build around. And I think right now what we're looking at with this team will not be ready to win anything for another 3 years at the earliest. Because if you look at this, this was the regime's second draft. So they already had the first draft. And that first draft, the first 2 picks, of course, were Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal. And so you can't really judge how this GM and everybody's doing until their players get into the Major League Baseball, actually on the Major League Baseball team. So, that's we're at least 3 years away. So with Skubal, you talk about Skubal going into a age 30 season. Are they going to pay him? But if you can go ahead and get, say, 3 or 4 pieces for Skubal that can be on that team, you build around the pieces that you get for him. That's what you do. So in a way, you are building around Skubal, but it's not Skubal on the team. You're getting pieces to build the rest of your team. And there's a lot of pieces that the Orioles specifically have that could help out Tigers in the future. So why wouldn't you want to take it, at least take a look at that?
Okay. So you brought up the Orioles, and there's been some talk in the local news here. Some of the other podcasts have mentioned a specific name on the Orioles as being something that might have to be included in a trade for Skubal, and that would be
Jackson Holliday, right?
Yeah. Yep. So to me, for a guy, and I say a guy, he's still a kid. Was he 22, 20, 21, something like
20.
That?
Just 20.
He's 20.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not don't know, the kid did get an opportunity to play in the bigs, right? He had, I don't know what his stint was, 8, 10 games, something like that. I don't know that it was a lot, right? Because he struggled. And they sent him back down to AAA. But he's 20
10 games.
It was 10 games. So he's 20 years old, right? Okay. He was doing well at the lower level. I don't know if it was just a promotional thing because his dad played there, right? Played for the Orioles.
Well, his dad was a Major League Baseball player.
I was a baseball player. Okay, I didn't know if he played for the Orioles or not, but okay. But my thing is, Holliday is the number 1 prospect, right? In baseball currently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we know the Orioles have, I think it's the best farm system in MLB.
Yeah.
If I think I read that right.
You did.
And so giving up someone like that, and maybe, I think it was their number 1 prospect. It was a number 5 prospect and a 10 prospect or something. There were 3 names, and I think they were all in the top 10. And I think it was Woodward Sports. I know I'm messing up their podcast, and I hate doing that, but
So there's two different ratings for every prospect. You have their prospect rankings on the team, and then prospect rankings for overall in baseball.
Gotcha.
So Baltimore
Jackson
only
Holiday.
has Jackson Holiday is the only top 10 prospect in all of baseball.
All right.
Right.
So,
I think so.
I think that's where I confused it. Was some of the names were there were high prospects in the Orioles pipeline.
Yes.
But even by giving them up, it seemed like the guy was like, they'd still have like a top 5 farm system by giving up 3 of those high picks or high guys in their pipeline. And that tells me, because you've talked about their pipeline a lot, the Orioles, and their farm system, and how well they've done in building that, right? And that there are players in the minors that just don't have a place to go, and they're excellent trade bait.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So, could you see, hypothetically, the Orioles trading a Jackson Holiday and a couple other picks for a Skubal?
No, Jackson Holiday will not be traded. That's the bottom line.
All right.
They're going to keep Jackson Holiday, and honestly, I don't blame them for keeping Jackson Holiday. But that does open up other prospects to be traded, and I think this can get done without Jackson Holiday. Personally,
okay.
Like, as looking at this, Samuel Basallo, like, the guy is a beast. Like, everything that that we see in him says that he's going to be one heck of a hitter. All right. So, because of course, look, we have a hit tool and a power tool as far as offensively, and your power tool is only as good as your hit tool, because you got to make contact or for the power to really matter. Right.
Sure.
So, in some cases, like Torkelson, for an example, like, his power rating is pretty high, but his hit rating is a lot lower because he doesn't make enough contact, right? So, but in the case of Basallo, his hit and power are equal. Like, they're both ranked a 60 on the 80-point scale. So that's high. And Basallo is a catcher / first baseman, so he has a little bit of versatility. But, like, if I don't get Holiday, Basallo is my number one target, period. Right? Like, you got to give me Basallo, if not Holiday. And then, because I'm not getting Holiday, I also want Colby Mayo. And, Colby Mayo is a third baseman again / first baseman, so he can kind of play both. But Mayo, what I like about Mayo is, I talked about this the last time, I think is the last podcast that we had. His, the sound on his bat is just incredible when the ball comes off of it. Like, if you watch some tape of his or go and watch some batting practice, like, there are a few players that when they hit the ball hard, like, it just makes this beautiful sound. And Mayo is one of those guys. So I would love to see Mayo on the Tigers as well. He's a 6'5" guy, big dude. But between Basallo, Mayo, and then, throw in someone like a Chase McDermott, and then maybe like a Jed Fabian, down towards, like Jed Fabian is like the 10th prospect in the Baltimore system. Something along those lines. I think those 4 players could actually get the deal made. Okay. Is what I think. Mm-hmm. But and I think that'd be a pretty good haul for the Tigers. Basallo's a left-handed bat. Mayo's a right-handed bat. McDermott's a right-handed pitcher. 6'3", pretty big guy. Mm-hmm. And in a way, they all kind of fill a position of need. Mayo, right. Third baseman, first baseman, somewhere in the corners. Right now, we don't really have either. And Basallo, catcher / first baseman. Again, we don't really have a first baseman or a catcher that's a difference maker. Now, we don't we don't know what Dylan Dingler is going to be. So I want to be fair to him. But as far as like what we know we have, we don't know that what we have in Dingler. So, there we go. But so there we go. I think that could get a deal done.
Okay. All right. You mentioned the name, and I think I've seen it as a possibility, as maybe including this player in your Spencer Torkelson in a trade.
Yeah.
Not as in just him for somebody else, but it would be, what if it were a Skubal and a Torkelson for players, or Jack Flaherty and Torkelson kind of thing, right? What kind of value do you think Torkelson would have in a trade?
Huh. I mean,
Now,
that's
last year, at the end of last year, I know it would have been different, but we're talking about right now, and the fact that we talked about, I think, in our last podcast, where he actually the Tigers brought up a different first baseman and didn't bring him up. So,
right.
And I'm just wondering if I felt like that sent a message to Torkelson, but I felt like maybe even through the league, like he might not make it back up here at all this year.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been pretty for him. Look, I know he has not been hitting well. Like, even in the minor leagues right now, his batting average is only at 239. So, not great. His ops is 751. Again, not great. So, he hasn't earned a promotion back, honestly.
Okay.
And I think as far as what his value brings, it just really depends on what other teams see him as. Like, do they think that they can? Because Spencer Torkelson's so talented and he's got power for days. Torkelson has a chance to be even a 40 home run a year guy. Like, I think he could achieve that. It sucks that he's been struggling as much as what he has. But I know just recently he had a 2 home run game, right? With 7 RBIs. So, maybe he's figuring something out.
Right. Because sometimes it's hard to look at his overall batting average. Sometimes you got to take a snapshot of, like, what's his last 10 games look like, or you know what I mean?
Well,
because
because
you have to be able to see, is he turning it around, or is it just still like consistent? Like, he had a peak and then there's like a bunch of valley and then one little peak.
It's like last year. Like, throughout the entire year last year, I just kept saying, look, Spencer Torkelson's like his other number, not as like, like, I don't know what you want to call those additional numbers, but like his sabermetrics or whatever, right? Like, I kept saying, like, Torkelson's better than what he's showing. It's going to come around. He's just getting really unlucky. Just wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then, the last, 2 months of the season, he was just exploded. He was just on fire.
Right.
But even going into this year, I said I think Torkelson figured it out, and he's going to be a difference maker this year, and he just hasn't been, and made me look like a fool. So thank you for that. But but also this year, I kept saying that it's not the same as last year. Like, he doesn't have those same types of sabermetric type of numbers that shows that he's just getting unlucky. He's just not. He just hasn't been good. That's the difference. So when you're saying you have to look at something outside of like overall, you're right, but you also have to look at like why things are happening the way they're happening. Is he barreling up balls? Is he just out of swing and miss, especially inside the zone? Those kind of numbers really matter. And with Torkelson's, they've just been awful this year. So his value, I think, would be because he's still young, and I think teams will still see him as having upside. I think that he has value, but nothing like he would have been, last year or anything like that. So it may not. The only way I would even consider trading Torkelson at this point, because of his value being a little bit lower than what I would like, because I don't think you're going to get the return out of for someone like Torkelson, is if Torkelson pushes something over the edge to really get a package that I really, really want.
Okay. Right. And that's why I meant, like, not him specifically. I don't know that we'd get much in return for him by himself. It would be an added value to the new team in order to get the trade done that would benefit us in the long run, right? Well,
Right.
what we hope would benefit us in the long run.
Correct. Yeah. And
So,
that's what again, if we have if he pushes something over the edge, with the Orioles or whatever, yes, I'm all for it.
yeah,
I mean, maybe if he's a difference of getting Jackson Holiday or not getting Jackson Holiday, Turco said would be gone. I'd get Jackson Holiday. That
okay.
kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's really what I wanted our listeners to hear, right? Or just anybody that wants to hear what we're saying. I just wanted to. You've been mentioning some names. I've been writing things down, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to mention it because you're like playing right into, because we don't script this out, by the way, anybody.
No.
But I'm kind of, especially when it comes to baseball, I'm the guy that I hear what he's talking about, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to throw this other scenario, and I just start, okay, because here's a name, boom, and I threw it back at him to say, okay, where's that value at? Okay, so that's the, being brothers, we feed off each other really well.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I get wordy with what I want to say, and I can redirect it to my brother, and he'll baseball explain it for me. But that's kind of really, I mean, not that we need to go too much, because that's kind of where we are, right? It's just
it's a holding
it's a bunch of what ifs right now, right?
Yeah.
So what I would like to do, kind of before we close everything out, right? There are two players that I want to talk about. The first one, because I want to start with the guy you don't like, and it's Javi Baez. And he's had, 3 home runs in, like, the last 4 games he's played or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? I've not seen the games. I'm assuming you probably saw the highlights or at least watched it. Were they hits? Like, did they sound like they should have gone out of the park, or were they, he had his eyes closed and he nicked it and it flew because the wind was blowing out?
No, they were legit.
Okay. So what do you, this doesn't change, I know, his mind about wanting to keep this guy on the team, because he's been very adamant about that. But, do you think he has found something since coming back from injury and having that, some time to maybe heal, and maybe some of his struggles was the fact that he was hurting? No? Okay. All right. And so I know that's the short answer. Okay.
And to expand on that a little bit, I'll tell you why. What made him so bad was him chasing after some really bad pitches, way outside the strike zone. That had nothing to do with injury at all. Like, an injury doesn't make you swing at bad pitches.
I got
and a lot of and with 3 home runs, at least 2 of them were, bad pitches by a pitcher. I mean, like a slider, curveball, some sort of off-speed stuff that just didn't break, just like hung right in middle, and he, Baez crushed it. And again, good for Baez. He didn't miss it, right? Like when a pitcher makes a mistake, I make the pitcher pay, and he did. So I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy. It's not as if, I'm just trying to say it's not as if the pitcher made a good pitch and Baez just, just did better, right? Like, it was a mistake by the pitcher and Baez made him pay. So, I'm not, even though it's been 3 home runs in 3 games, I'm not prepared to sit there and say that Baez is, figure something out. Again, don't get me wrong. I hope he has. I don't.
Yeah.
But no. I don't think he has.
Well, no, because, in those 3 games, you got to figure he's at 12, 15, I'd say between 9 and 15 at bats, depending, right? Or like I know it's not a big sample size, but it's been in the news because obviously Baez has struggled at the plate. right?
Yeah,
Not just
so
home
bad.
run struggle at the plate, like just making contact and swinging at good pitches, or even
Yeah,
bad pitches that are over the plate, right? So I thought I'd get our Javi Baez moment into the show because we kind of
the only
I usually
thing, the only
figure it
thing I'll
out.
say, just to again expand this a little bit further, is in the last 3 games in which he's had those 3 home runs, he's had 11 at bats, 3 hits in those 11 at bats, and all 3 were home runs. But he's only got 1 strikeout in those 11 at bats, which is a definite improvement. So he hasn't
Right.
walked, but only 1 strikeout. So again, that is a little bit of a sign for optimism, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's about all I can say. But no, at this point, I need to see more before I say that he's figured something out.
Perfect. No, and that's I felt it was just interesting. We did their show today, and the kind of the week that he's had because they've been playing every day, so it's been that kind of week for him.
Yeah.
And now I kind of, unless you have something else, but I'd like to wrap the show up with talking about Riley Green and his injury and what because you talked about how injuries not making you swing at bad pitches, but with the Riley Green thing, he was struggling, mightily struggling, right?
Yes.
So I know we went back and forth some text messages over the last couple of weeks before he got put on IL. Just looking at his numbers, and they weren't good, right? He was striking out a lot. He was not making any contact. It was deplorable. Like 2 hits out of 20 at bats or something. It was ridiculous. And then the injury said he came out, he was injured, and then he got put on the 10-day IL, I think it was. Where do you? Because he's a bat that you've talked about that the Tigers needed, right? Like he has, if the Tigers were going to be successful at another level, he was going to be one of the players that had to help and be there to do that for them.
Right.
So I just wanted to get your, input on his injury. I think it was lower back. Is that what it is?
Hamstring.
It's a hamstring. Okay. So as a batter, I get from a running perspective, right? I get, a hamstring is, as a track guy, I know bad hamstring. But from a hitting perspective, can that affect your swing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, it makes sense that it could because you're moving that lower body, you're driving with your legs as you would if in a running motion, but it's not that. But you're using those muscles.
Yes, you are, and you're kind of using your whole body to kind of hit, right, from the legs all the way up to the shoulders, like everything,
right,
and there's been no real timetable on Riley Green's return. He was put on a 10-day injured list, but when you're looking at the average return from like a hamstring injury, it's about 20 days.
Yeah.
So, like that's what I'd expect to see is about 20 days. It wasn't anything major, is all they're saying. Like it wasn't like a major hamstring issue. So
no tear, just a pull and precautionary, and even just a pull. Anyone that's ever pulled a hamstring knows, right? Like I've had hamstring pulls that were so bad, the back of my leg from the top of my calf to the bottom of my backside was just black and blue, right? Like I thought I tore my hamstring. It was so bad, right?
Yeah. And again, it's just a strain, so that was good.
Perfect. So okay, because for the future, in the next couple of years, like you said, Riley Green's going to be one of those guys that's going to be the leader in the clubhouse. He's going to be the guy we're going to need. We're going to need that bat to help move us along.
Yeah, I think Riley Green has a chance to be somewhere around like a 280, 290 hitter with about 25 home runs a year. I think that's about where he's going to max out at in terms of a player. Yeah,
okay.
And that's great. Like I got no issues with that, right? Like,
yeah.
And he's going to play really, above average defense too. They're in the field. Yeah.
Yep. So, because you got to take modest numbers, and you put it on the offensive side with his modest numbers on offense, and then above average defense, and you put a guy like you talked about is he like Gold Glove guy? He was at his first All-Star game this year, right? So, he he obviously has the talent. I think Riley Green was player voted, right? It was Green and School were both player voted in from the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it was tough because it seemed like Riley Green was having he had a good stretch of games, and then he got into this slump, and then it was the injury, and I always question it, right? When there's a slump and then there's this injury, right? So to me, it's a cat and mouse game, I guess, right? You don't want to throw him down and put him in, send him to AAA. I don't even know if they could do that, depending on how many years he's been with us, right? I know there's some rules there too about sending players down, but can you put him on an IL, get him some rest, and then he starts, rehab assignment, right, at AAA, and then he comes back up, kind of thing. So I just wanted to know, like, do teams really play those kinds of games, or if they found out, like if the MLB found out, would that be some of those things where they get penalized for like a false statement kind of thing? I don't know.
For doing what?
For saying he was injured when he wasn't.
No. As a matter of fact, like, there was every year there's an anonymous poll put out there to all these major leaguers, and and it's different things like who do you think's the best player, who do you think's most overrated, what team would you want to play for, what team would you not want to play for, that kind of thing. And one of the questions on there was, have you like, do you know of players that was put like on IR when they weren't, or on the IL that weren't really injured and that kind of stuff? And yeah, like it happens all the time, basically.
Okay. So. Okay. Well, no, because I thought the same thing about the Baez thing too, right? When he first went, when they sent him on the IL, but
yeah.
Anyway, it was just one of those things. I don't know enough about it, to me. I've heard of teams. Well, the Lions specifically, right, with the Amon-Ra St. Brown. Did you hear about that? Where he was the cracked rib or shoulder? It was some kind of injury that he had that he was playing through for the season, but he was never reported. Yeah. And like one of those things, and the NFL might come at him and penalize him for it.
Yep.
So I just wasn't sure if it can work that way, where a player was injured but you didn't list it. Can you go on the backside of that? Say a player was injured when they weren't, and would there be repercussions? So I just thought I'd throw it out there. Conspiracy
I'm sure it would
theory.
Be if there's some ways to like prove it, right?
Gotcha.
But yeah,
but, when you got doctors in the building that'll sign a piece of paper that says he's injured and he's under my care, right?
Right.
It's kind of hard to beat. Okay. All right. Well, what else? You got anything else for us, brother?
The only thing I think we'll do is a quick rundown of some of the more interesting trades that's happened so far.
Okay, let's do that.
I think, and we'll kind of end it there, right? Like some of the trades that I thought were interesting was, of course, Cubs and Isaac Paredes from the Rays for Christopher Morel. Paredes, of course, was a Tiger for some time. Tigers traded Paredes away for Austin Meadows. And of course, we know how that trade turned out. Meadows really only played like a few games for the Tigers. And then Paredes went on to be an all-star this year. Right from the very beginning, I said that was a bad trade. But at any rate, here we go. This is what happened. And Paredes is now a member of the Cubs.
Yeah. And Austin Meadows is brother Parker, right?
Right. That's correct.
Okay. And was it Austin that was having, like, is he even playing ball right now?
No.
Okay.
No. He has some mental health problems, it sounds like.
And that's what I thought I heard. I don't like to say it unless I was sure. So I thought that's what I'd heard, but okay.
One trade I want to talk about was because Padres got Jason Adam from the Rays, and they got three, and the Rays got three prospects for Jason Adams. Now, I want to bring this up because again, it's a pitcher being traded, and Adams is a reliever at that, right? He's not a starting pitcher, and he's definitely not Cy Young caliber, like Tarek Skubal, but
Yep.
we kind of get to see. What the market is telling us, pitchers are going to be going for. And of course, it's not just going to be Skubal, but also Flaherty. So in this return here, the Rays got, Lesko, Homer Bush Jr., and J.D. Gonzalez, right? So that's and Lesko was definitely a prize of that. I was surprised that they gave up Lesko for Jason Adams, but hey, they did, and that was pretty interesting. So that's three prospects there
For a reliever. Now,
yeah.
in the Rays system, like what kind of rank within the Rays system did it have that, or do you know that?
They were all top 30 within the Rays. I don't know the
Okay.
exact.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, they were all top 30 in that scenario.
Gotcha. Just trying to go apples to apples,
quick.
when you're thinking about who you got and what you got. But three prospects, top 30 prospect. That's okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Let's see. Does it still show them in San Diego?
Yeah, because when that Carson Kelly thing got the two players that we got, I went to the team that they were just coming from, and they were already not listed.
So here's Dylan Lesko is now already on the Rays prospects, and he's number 5 for the Rays prospects already.
Wow. Okay.
So that's, like I said, I was surprised they let him go.
Gotcha.
But Homer Bush Jr. and J.D. Gonzalez, are they on the Rays here? J.D. Gonzalez is 28 on the Rays. So, and of course, the Rays usually have a pretty good system as well. As for and Homer Bush, there he is, number 20. So yeah, they all translate it to the top 30 for the Rays.
Nice.
So the other one I want to talk about is it's another Rays trip. Well, we can talk about this one too real quick. Yankees got Jazz Chisholm Jr., right? So that's a good trade overall for the Yankees. They didn't give up too much for him, so overall that worked out good for him. Okay. And this one here, Orioles got Zach Eflin, again from the Rays. Now, Eflin is a starter, and Eflin's probably going to be the third guy in the rotation for the Orioles at this point in time. And they had to give up, and again, it was a 3 prospect return. You got Matt Horvath, Jackson Baumeister, and Matthew Etzel being traded. In my opinion, Matt Horvath is the main guy in that trade, and Matt Horvath is now the 19th prospect in the system, right? Baumeister and Etzel, I'm not even sure if they made. Etzel is 29 on the Rays now, and Baumeister's 14th. So there you go. Right. Again, they all made the top 30 inside the Rays prospect rankings now. So that's 3 prospects for him as well. Well, here's another one, another Rays one. Randy Rosarina's gone. It was actually kind of like a little sad day. Randy, for the last game, he just kind of sat in the stands, talked with the fans a little bit, watched a little bit of the game, shook some fans' hands as he was leaving. Very, very cool of him to do stuff like that. And for that one, they ended up getting like Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins. And Aiden Smith is now the 13th prospect in their system. So again, they're just retooling over and over again with some of these trades. But the one that I want to call out is the D-backs when they acquired AJ Puck. This is the one I really wanted to mention because I think this one's kind of gone under the radar a little bit.
Yep.
Now, D-backs needed a reliever like AJ Puck, so that's fine, whatever. They're trying to win, and win now, and that's great. But they gave up a Davison De Los Santos, and that I really like that. I really like him as a prospect, and I did not expect him to be given up like that. He now becomes the 5th overall prospect in the Miami Marlins system, and the guy's got power for days. He's a corner fielder, first base, third baseman, but yeah, I really like him, and already this year in 2024, he has 29 home runs. Like, the guy's got a lot of power. So just want to throw that out there, that just kind of seeing what other teams are getting in return for some of the players that they're trading. What is the market saying that we should be getting if we trade away, say, Flaherty or a Skubal?
Okay, yeah. I mean, because you were talking, when you look at some of the pitchers that have been traded, and what they've gotten, it just, you said before our show, before we got on the air, that I think you said it before we got on the air, that it was the market hasn't been set, or not quite set, for a Skubal trade. And I can't remember if you said that right at the beginning of our episode or if it was prior to us getting on. Can you talk about that? I guess I can't remember if it was it during. Did we do it at the beginning or was it before we got on?
I think it was before we got on.
I think it was before we got on. Okay.
But yeah, so like this is something that's hard to compare because I don't even think, like, if you think back to like Juan Soto being traded, I don't think that even that Juan Soto trade is equivalent to what Skubal is, right?
Right.
So that's why I don't think there's anything that's comparable. And when you look at what happened with the Juan Soto trade from the Padres, like the stuff that they've gotten, the Nationals have gotten for the Juan Soto trade, it's helping them become relevant again. So like C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, just 3 of the guys that they got for him. Like, those were some like fantastic prospects, and they're going to make the Nationals like contenders. And you're going to go back to, say, the Orioles when they traded Manny Machado. Like they got like 5 prospects from Manny Machado too, I think. But at any rate, like none of that is even comparable, because you got Skubal that will be still under team control for 3 years. He is 27, right? I think I said 27, and he's a lefty potential Cy Young Award winner. Like that, I don't know of another situation in which that's happened before, where a Cy Young Award winner still under team control is that could potentially be on the market. So like the return for someone like a Skubal would have to be way more than even what a Juan Soto trade was. Gotcha. And that's why like the market will not be set. I don't know if I made that clear or not, but the market will not be set because this is not normal, and we're not going to see that this year as far as something comparable to a Skubal. But what we can do is we can kind of see, okay, like for this pitcher, this team gave up in their system like a 5, a 12, and a 22 player, like prospects, right? Like
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so what would Scooble then look like? So it's not really going to be set, but at least you can kind of have a little more of a clarity. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes when you have something and it's yours, you kind of value it more than maybe others do.
Right.
So
And I
when
think that's what I've heard
we
from a lot of other podcasts is just because they're local podcasts to the they do Michigan sports and
right,
I just felt like they wanted the king's ransom, which I get, right?
yes,
Because you, as you're saying, this is kind of an unprecedented type of possible trade.
right,
So why not ask for the moon, and then get 3/4 of the moon, I guess.
and well, like, and again, I don't think we're gonna get Jackson Holiday, right? And which is
Yeah.
fine. Like like I said before, I think we can get. I think they have enough prospects where we can still make the deal happen without Holiday being included.
Yeah.
But but it's definitely going to cost more players in that scenario for Baltimore. That's it, right?
Yeah.
But it could
So
definitely happen.
I think and I'm going to steal this from one of the other podcasts, but I think if you include a Jackson Holiday, I think you get you get at least one less prospect. You might only get 2 prospects instead
You
of
might
maybe
only
4
get 2
prospects.
prospects, right?
Right. And again, I'm trying to give credit to the people that I heard it from, and I want to say I know it was like Woodward, right? And I just can't. I don't know why I can't remember the name of it, but it was Woodward something. Woodward
Maybe
Sports.
Woodward Sports.
Woodward Sports, I think is what it's called. But trying to give them credit for because that's where I think I'm almost positive that's where I heard it. But
but yeah, Jackson Holiday, because of just you get a lot less, and player wise, the number of players a lot less, like if you think about it, like the top 100 right now for all of baseball for the prospect rankings, you have Samuel Basallo is number 12, and you got Kobe Mayo as 15. So you could probably get both of them as opposed to one Jackson Holiday, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you did do that, and if you did have, if you did get Basallo and Mayo to go along with Detroit, because you would have, right now Detroit already has 4 top 100 prospects. Actually, 4 of the top 62 prospects with Max Clark, Jackson Jobe, Jace Young, Kevin McGonigal. Now you're going to add a potential 2 others to that, and you have 6 of the top 62.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's pretty good when you're talking about the farm system.
Yes, exactly.
And they're in positions where
of need.
At positions of need. And I was trying to avoid the term need because you always talk about not drafting for need in baseball. You draft talent,
right?
But in this instance, they would be filling a need on our team: the corner, the catcher, middle infield. So
in this situation, the talent is the talent that would be getting back, because it is the best talent available, also just so happens to fit the need. Like it's like a perfect fit. Yes.
Yeah, because we don't have an everyday starter at any of those positions.
No, I mean Torkelson was supposed to be our first baseman, but of course we know what happened to him. Talk about him. We don't really have a catcher that I feel that is a say top 10 catcher in the league. We don't have that, and that's so between Basallo and Mayo, we have that, right? Like, we at least have 2 of those. Between first base, third base, and catcher, we got 2 of those 3 spots filled.
Yeah, the corner and behind the plate. I mean,
yeah.
McGonigal, he's a second baseman, right? You start working a little bit on that middle, or potentially, right? And then you got Max Clark playing.
He could stay at short, but
okay. I didn't know. Couldn't remember if he played short or second.
Right now, he's playing short. They give him every opportunity to be a shortstop, but he might have to transition to second. Don't really know for sure yet.
Yeah, we all know. I think understand why they're trying to work him at shortstop, right? because
because we don't have any.
we don't have any. So, but yeah, that was a pretty all-encompassing show. We talked about some,
And the last thing I'll mention, and I just want to, if we are, say, 3 years of potentially winning this thing, because that's when Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal will be, into the major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Jobe will probably make his debut next year at some point next year.
Okay.
Jace Young, again, will probably make his, he could potentially make his debut at the end of this year, give him kind of like a little taste of the big leagues, but it's possible. Again, more than likely 2025 is when he'll make his, full on play a full year in the bigs, right. 2025. So you got Jackson Jobe, Jace Young, probably next year. Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, maybe 26, but probably 27.
So
and then
because both of those kids they were high school players, right? McGonigal wasn't a college player, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
right.
Gotcha.
McGonigal and Max Clark are both only 19 years old.
19.
So
okay.
Even if it's in 27, which is 2 years away, there's still going to be 22 making their debut.
Correct.
So.
Okay.
But you also have Hyu Lee. And Hyu Lee, because we got in that trade, he's batting 294 this year.
Yeah.
Right? So he's having a pretty decent season so far. And he's got 12 home runs, which is more than he's had in any other year. But what I'm saying all this only to state that if we did make the trade and we got Basallo and Mayo, Basallo is 19. So in 2 to 3 years, if he makes his debut in, just say 26, he's 21 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Like it kind of fits our timetable is what I'm saying.
Well, when you start mentioning the ages of some of the players that we already have and potential players we might get in a trade, that 26, 27 time, we're going to have one of the youngest rosters in the league. Right? I mean, you're talking kids that are going to be 21 to 27.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If not the youngest, I know we're going to have a really young squad, and if they play well and they start the more they play together, the more they mature together. That's, I'd like to see it, but like a playoff dynasty team.
And it's possible, right? If you think about the Orioles, because I went back and looked at like some of the Orioles stuff that they made. That's why I mentioned the whole Manny Machado trade. They traded Manny Machado for 5 players, and at the time that was their best player.
Right.
And I had it written down here. I don't know where I did with my little book. Oh, here it is. Some of the trades that they made, and they traded away their closer for 3 prospects, right? They got Kevin Gausman. They traded him for 4 players. Jonathan Scope, they traded for 4 players. And that all started in 2018. So in 2018, they just basically said, we're selling, and they traded away a lot of their best players, but that allowed them to get Adley Rutschman, and then of course others. But Adley Rutschman was their first overall pick back in 2019. So it was right after they kind of did their fire sale. Yeah. And they got, 2019, got Adley Rutschman, and now we're kind of seeing that they were able to kind of build their farm system with some of that stuff that had occurred. So just because we're trading away Tarik Skubal, I keep saying this, we are doing it. It's not a done deal, obviously. But if we do trade away Tarik Skubal, it's not we're done, we're sold out, we're not trying anymore. Right. It's quite the opposite. It's we're and the same thing with the whole Juan Soto trade. You can go back and look at any of those big trades with those big name players. They are, they get a lot more in return than what they're trading out, right? And that's what we could potentially get for Skubal, more than what we are giving out. Obviously, none of these players are major, MLB tested, so they're not proven. Right. Anything can happen. It may end up being one of the worst trades in the world, right? If they all just flame out and don't do anything, that's possible. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that would happen. But
Right.
hey, anyways. So if Skubal does get traded, I think right now, from what I've read, like from fans posting on stuff, is they don't want Skubal to be traded. Like they want to build around Skubal, and and it's not that that's like a dumb idea or anything like that. Because again, if we keep Skubal, I'm not exactly going to be upset by that.
Sure.
It's just that when you have the opportunity to bring in this type of talent, it doesn't happen. It actually rarely happens. That's why you can name all the trades in which it's happened, because it just doesn't happen like that. So, sometimes you have to take the advantage.
Yeah, you get like a 4-for-1 player, right? To build your team.
Well, Skubal's going to start 25, 28, maybe 30 games a year. He'll start, right? So he'll start maybe, say one fifth of the time out there if he doesn't have any injuries. Whereas like you get these, let's say you get 3 position players, they'll all play like say 155 games a year, 150 games a year.
Right.
Like I don't know.
No, yeah.
Like,
your return on your investment when you're talking about player on the field, if you're pitcher for like, a fielder, not a pitcher, right? But no. Yeah, it's going to be, we've been talking about it just via text, just how interesting it's just, I've been on the news trying to scour whatever I can. Like, what did they say today? What did they, has anything happened? Is there some kind of official word from either the Orioles or the Tigers that, hey, we've got, this, this is what, what I mean? Like with some player names, just other than just flat rumors. But I keep looking because it's got me on the edge of my seat.
Now let's just do something real quick because we're talking about Skubal so much, and I know this episode keeps going on and on and on. But look, MLB.com, Andrew Simon wrote an article, and this article just got put out yesterday, and I think that's why I want to kind of discuss it real quick. He came up with 3 different proposals of from different teams that might be enough to get Skubal away from them. All right, so. The first offer is from the Dodgers. He says Dalton Rushing, an outfielder, Josu DePaula, right-handed pitcher River Ryan, and left-handed pitcher Justin Robleski. Now, from the Dodgers, that's our number 1 prospect in Dalton Rushing, number 2 prospect in DePaula, number 4 prospect in River Ryan, number 14 prospect in Robleski. All right, so as far as like their farm system, Tigers be getting a lot out of their farm system. But Dalton Rushing is number 47 overall for MLB's prospects, and DePaula is number 62. Ryan and Robleski are not ranked. Now, they're saying, why would it work for the Tigers? That's all we care about. We don't care if it works for the Dodgers. Why would that work for the Tigers? And it's saying that the deal will be centered around Rushing and DePaula. 19-year-old DePaula has some of the most polished hitting tools in the minors and has a legit chance to be a top 10 overall prospect in the next few seasons. Parting with him would be nearly impossible for the Dodgers, but this is a mock trade after all. Outside DePaula and Rushing, the Tigers would also get a pair of quality arms in Ryan and Robleski. Robleski actually had another start yesterday or the day before, who are currently in the Dodgers starting rotation. There you go. So, no, I don't really think that, in my opinion, that's enough. I wouldn't take that deal. Just now. Again, I like Rushing. We talked about that many times. Like I've been Dodgers have a lot of catchers in their system, and I would love to get one of them. But for me, that's not enough. Sorry, Dodgers. Like I would not do it for that.
Right.
Now the next one, he was paid for the Baltimore Orioles. Now this gets a little more interesting. And this one, he's saying Sammy Basallo, Connor Norby, Kyle Stowers, and Alex Pham. Again, 4 of them. And he's saying the centerpiece would be Basallo. He's impressed at every level of Baltimore's minor league system. He's 6'4" lefty slugger, tremendous pop. Norby has a ton of offensive potential as well. A 24-year-old has shown in AAA Norfolk during brief stints in the big leagues. Meanwhile, Stowers and Pham would be solid complementary players in the deal. No. To me, that's not enough. Like, of course, like Basallo, Norby's not a bad player, but if I'm not getting Jackson Holliday, like I said, what I would need, it would, I would need, and that's just not enough for me. I'm sorry, but again, that's a no. And the last one he talks about is the Yankees. This one's probably the most laughable of them all, but he's saying Spencer Jones, George Lombard Jr., Brando Mayea, and Jared Serna, and Nestor Cortez. And just, no. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't... Spencer Jones is a nice prospect, but beyond that, I'm not interested in any of those players. I'm sorry. So, he believes the Dodgers has the most compelling offer. But anyways, he also says, though, which I thought was interesting, was the Orioles' hypothetical offer includes several prospects close to the big leagues or with time there already. It's difficult to envision Basallo centering a successful offer without being paired with Jackson Holliday or Kobe Mayo. And that's what I've been saying, right? If I'm not getting Jackson Holliday, I want Basallo and Mayo. I have no idea why he didn't put Mayo in there in the first place if he thinks it'd be difficult for the deal to get done without both of them in the offer.
Yeah.
But makes no sense to me. And this goes to what you were also saying too. He's talking about the Dodgers hypothetical. He's talking about the Tigers front office seems to value DePaulo combined speed and athleticism with plate discipline, who came through the Tigers high A affiliate West Michigan a few weeks ago after being promoted to Great Lakes. Like Basallo, rushing could provide a left-handed bat behind the plate or become an option at first base if Spencer Torkelson isn't the long-term answer there. So he did mention Spencer Torkelson possibly not being the answer, and yes, that could make it worth more if they believe Spencer Torkelson isn't the answer.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he does not think that the deal will get done with Skubal at all this year. And I believe that's ultimately what's going to happen too. I don't think a deal with Skubal is going to get done either. But it's still something that I would definitely consider if the right players were in the package.
Yeah, so it's weird because the Dodgers just had Kershaw just came back from injury, right? So
yes.
On the pitching side, right? Didn't they have two pitchers just come back from injury for the Dodgers?
I don't know about two.
But I know Kershaw did, and he had a good start. Obviously, they have Ohtani, and he's not going to pitch obviously till next year. But like they have some people coming back from injury that are going back into the rotation.
They have like an all-star rotation that's injured. They had no Kershaw, no Gonsolin, no May, and during the year they lost Buehler, Yamamoto, and Glasnow.
Yeah,
like their injuries on pitchers is insane, and I think that's why. That kind of makes my point for me as why I'd be difficult to pay a starting pitcher $30 million plus a year because of situations like this with what you see on the Dodgers.
Well, and the thing with Skubal is that yes, he's still under team control for a couple of years, but you still have all those other who are you going to pay, who are you going to cut? I guess, right?
Right.
Because that's what it's going to come down to. Then you bring in a guy that you gave up a bunch for, and then in 2 years you're just going to let him walk, which I guess happens a lot. I'm sure it does. But that just to me doesn't, the return on investment for me is if I'm giving up so much, I want to make sure that I'm getting something back that's going to be worth what I'm giving. Right? So looking at it from the opposite side of the fence, not the Tiger fan.
It's
which is why I
it's
can see it's difficult.
for me. It's hard to believe that Scooble's value will be any higher than what it is right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's
All we're gonna do is lose from here on out. Not lose games, but like lose opportunities to build a perennial winner.
I think that right, because you need prospects to do that, and we've seen what teams do when they collect prospects, like the Rays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we may not agree with them not paying any of their players, but when they trade away their good players and getting all these different prospects,
Mm-hmm.
like that, those prospects like allow for them to be as good as what they are. Like it's those prospects, and they trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, some get drafted, but they so many of them they trade for.
Yeah. Well, and that's in football. I've always looked to the Patriots for how, like, when the Tom Brady era, right? Tom Brady made the players around him better, right? Players wanted to come there. They didn't have this super high salary, right? Tom Brady always took a pay cut to get players to come in, so to kind of balance everything out. But they didn't have they had good players, and they became great players, when they played together the way they did, right? So they were looking for a specific player, and the Patriots just weren't known for paying their players. Like if you wanted to get paid, they let you go. Kind of what the Rays have done. In a similar fashion.
Skubal will be a free agent in 2027. So he has the rest of this year, 25 and 26.
26,
right?
25 and 26. So he's a free agent after the 26 season.
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, he'll be 29, or will he be 30?
He was born in 96. So
96. Okay, so he'd be hitting his 30th birthday if he didn't
hit 30. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And plus, he's also his agent is Scott Boras.
Okay.
And he's known to like basically get his players a ton of money, right? Like that's what he's known for. And again, I don't think Detroit's going to pay. So
yeah.
And one of the reasons why Skubal has so much value is because he is under team control for the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we traded him in 26, we wouldn't get as much for him because he's no longer under team control. He'd be a free agent after the year.
Right.
Right? So, and then
you'd be
next
looking
year,
at like an Ohtani thing, because nobody wanted to give up a ton for Ohtani at the trade deadline because they knew he was going to be a free agent.
Correct. And the next year, same scenario happens. Well, he's only under contract for 1 more year. Like now he loses some value because again, team control, only 1 year as opposed to 2. So, like you have to keep in mind that even if Skubal is as good this next year as he is this year, his value still won't be as high as what it is this year. Yeah. So either you go ahead and trade him now when his value is at the highest, or you say, you know what, we can see that we're going to get less, but we see Skubal in our plans, and but what again, it's just kind of like, what do you do with that scenario? And maybe a lot of it has to do with what they give for Flaherty. Maybe if Flaherty is, they get like 3 prospects for Flaherty that are pretty good prospects. Maybe they're just like, hey, that's enough prospects in our system. We want to keep Skubal. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going on in their minds. All I know is me personally, like knowing that the Tigers will be very difficult going forward to compete in future years. Consistently, I want to stash as many minor league players in my system as possible. Right. And you're talking about the Patriots. It's kind of like what the Patriots were doing when they traded down in the draft. Instead of going after one person, they would trade down, collect draft picks, draft players they felt fit their system. And hey, if I get enough draft picks in here, I'm going to hit on 2 or 3 of them every year. And that's what I need to do.
Yep.
And maybe it's the same way with, collecting draft picks, right? You keep collecting draft pick after draft pick after draft pick, and you're going to hit on them. and then you can use those. Then there you go, right? Like now
Right.
you have a good young.
And if you don't,
core.
then you use them one. Then you use them 1 year, and you trade up into the first round, or trade up higher, and you get a player that you think is going to be the guy. But they're not really known for that, the Patriots. But anyway, that's how that's why I was trying to correlate some football to the baseball side, like what the Rays do, and not paying their players. They just develop them, and then get more talent, and then they keep developing players. So,
yeah, I mean Tampa Bay. If you go back and you look at their top players, like their Junior Caminero, he's not drafted by the Rays. Carson Williams was drafted by the Rays, who I love, by the way. I wish there was some way Detroit could get Carson Williams. Xavier Isaac was drafted by the Rays. Brendan Taylor was drafted by the Rays. Yeah, if you just go down and look, Brody Hopkins was not drafted by the Rays. He was not either. You probably have, out of their top 10 prospects, 3 or 4 were not drafted by the Rays in the whole top 10. Right?
Okay.
Like that's because they just collect them by trading away their anyways. At any rate, like that's kind of repeating myself, but I'd love to see the Tigers are able to do something with Flaherty and Skubal. Let's set ourselves up for the future and not just 1 or 2 years.
Yep.
Let's set ourselves up for 5 or 6.
Yep. Go out and get what you can for Canna and Ursula as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what. Like at this point,
yeah,
like when Tigers first traded, and they got Hyu Lee, a lot of people were like, "Really, Hyu Lee? Like that's all we could get was Hyu Lee?" And he's one of our best prospects right now as far as production goes.
Yeah. Well, you were actually thought that was really interesting when they did get him. They're like, because you did, because you're the analytics guy, so you started looking at some other different numbers for him, and I think he was the guy that you liked.
Well, I thought Hyu Lee fit the profile of what the Tigers were looking for.
Yep.
That was it, right? Like Tigers like players that have good knowledge of the strike zone. They don't chase after pitches. And they'll make contact consistently. And that's Hyu Lee.
Yep.
And so when they traded for him, I thought it was interesting just because of just that reason. Like he fits their mold. So but this year too, like I mentioned earlier, he's actually found a little more power. The most home runs he's hit in a single year before this year was 9 back in 2022. He only hit 6 in all of last year, right? So he's already at 12 this year.
Yeah.
So he's definitely tapping into a little bit more power.
Yep. Yeah. So I've been refreshing the MLB website just to, see if anything new is coming up, and I'm checking my phone every time it buzzes because you just never know.
Right.
Just
never know.
The closer we get, that's how this thing works, right? That's how the trade deadline works. You're going to see stuff. I think by tomorrow evening, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff going into Tuesday for the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
Tuesday is probably going to be the busiest day because it'll be the last full day they have before the deadline.
And again, I'll just mention
again.
Not
Tuesday. I take that back. Today's the 28th, 28th. No.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow. I'm sorry. Tomorrow being the 29th tomorrow's going to be the busiest day.
We'll still see like stuff being done right before the deadline. Like last year, remember that last year the Tigers, they tried trading away what's his face? Yeah. And then and he denied it going to the Dodgers, right?
Yep.
I'm still curious who they would have gotten for that trade, who the Dodgers was offering up. If they was offering up like Diego Cartaya, that would make me even more mad. But
I know.
So
we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. But so I'm just saying it is within the Tigers, like, so far as far as what we know, because they've only had one trade deadline to work so far since they've been in charge of the baseball operations.
Right.
Is they'll work all the way up to like right at the end for the trade deadline. So we could see something happening all the way up to the last minute.
Yeah, because got that message. Tiger pitcher got traded. It was Lorenzen.
Eduardo Rodriguez. That's who it was.
Rodriguez. Yep. But
I couldn't remember that for a second.
Yeah. And that was weird too, because Lorenzen was our all-star pitcher that went last year, and then he got traded at the trade deadline, and then pitched a no-hitter.
Yep.
And now he's struggling. So
well, he it was funny because last year I even mentioned that Michael Lorenzen would be the best pitcher on the Tigers last year. Like I made that call.
Yeah.
And but anyways, I don't know.
Well, if you can do it 2 years in a row and we get a group of good young players that are going to fit our system and make us better for 10 years, let's get that done.
Right.
Let's get that done. See,
so
the thing about fans is when your team starts winning games, they forget about all that other stuff. Like when the plan that was in place comes together and you're winning consistently, you tend to forget that, oh my God, we gave up Skubal, right? Oh my God, because I was shocked still when they gave up Verlander and then they gave up Scherzer, like, the David Price, like all we had a lot of great pitching, right? It just we didn't get I don't know. We kind of got the raw end of those deals. So they either went left in free agent or they were traded, but you got nothing when they leave. So, but all right, everybody, we're pushing that 90-minute mark, I think.
Oh, geez, yeah. I'm just trying to find out, see if they had anything on there what we would have gotten for Rodriguez, but I can't find anything yet. Made me think about it, but appreciate everybody. We'll just talk to everybody later. Sorry it's been so long since we did a show, but glad to do one now.
Yep.
And we'll just talk to everybody later.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.